students, and welcome to our course BE300 Marketing Research. My name is Dr. Hind Samah. I will be giving you today lecture of Chapter 2, Types of Research. Let's begin with the type of research. Research can be classified based on the following. The first classification is based on the nature of research inquiry or the type of investigation we want to conduct. So we can classify research according to this matter into exploratory research, descriptive research, and explanatory or causal research. Another classification for research, they can be classified according to the mode of data collection. In this case, we can classify research as either continuous or ad hoc research, only research made when necessary. Also, according to the type of data, there are qualitative research and quantitative research. Finally, according to the source of data, we can classify research as primary research and secondary research. Methods of data collection. We have different types of data collection in every research. They can be through observation, surveys or questionnaires, and interview. And we can classify research according to the research design. For example, we have case study research, longitudinal research, and experimental research. Also, we have this cross-sectional research. The difference between exploratory, descriptive, causal, or explanatory research. If you remember, this type of classification is according to the type of research investigation. We use explanatory research to gain insight into a general nature or a problem. That's why we call it exploratory. We want to explore, general exploration, the possible decision alternatives and the relevant variables that need to be considered. Most of the research conducted begin with exploration. So we might have many research containing more than type of investigation, and they usually begin with the exploratory research. Research methods in this case are highly flexible and unstructured. They use the qualitative data because we want some exploration and we want to gather data, more qualitative data. So the best methods in this type of research are expert or experience survey, pilot survey with descriptive statistics, case studies, and secondary data. Secondary data means data not obtained for specific cause of this research. Secondary data means data which are previously collected before. These secondary data, they can be either qualitative or quantitative, but in either case they are interpreted without testing any hypothesis. This in the preliminary exploratory research. Talking about the descriptive research aims at providing more accurate snapshot of some aspects of the market environment, which is different than the general view of the exploratory research. Also, in this descriptive research, we might find both qualitative and quantitative, but not necessarily with hypotheses. There is no explicit cause-effect relationship. This will come in a later stage. The methods used in the descriptive research might be observations, surveys, secondary data, just as exploratory research, but also not testing for relationships or cause and effect. The final type, according to the type of investigation, which is the causal or explanatory research, to explain. This type of research addresses the why question. For example, why do people choose brand A, not brand B? This is a question or a type of investigation. We use causal or explanatory research for this matter. This type of research involves testing the relationship between two variables based on past experience or theory, or even examining the effect of one variable on the other, such as examining the effect of reducing prices on sales volume, for example. Most of the methods used in causal and explanatory research are quantitative in nature because they are testing a hypothesis, unlike the descriptive research and explanatory. The experiments here also using secondary data or surveys, but aiming in this case at testing relationship and cause effect. Now we are trying to conclude the differences between exploratory research and causal research or conclusive research. According to certain factors or criteria, for example, according to the objective, the exploratory research aims to explore, give insights and understanding. But according to the explanatory, they try to explain a relationship according to certain hypotheses. Regarding the factor of the characteristic of research, بطبيعة الحال exploratory research, the sample is small and unrepresentative. Why? Because we need only to get some insights and to explore. Information needed is loosely and generally defined. Analysis of primary data is also qualitative. However, in the explanatory research, information needed must be clearly defined, and the research process is very formal and so structured. The sample should be large enough and very representative to the population, and the data analysis is very quantitative, not qualitative like the exploratory one. Considering the findings and results, in the exploratory research, they are tentative, they are not exclusive, we cannot be sure. However, in the explanatory, findings use as inputs into decision making. Also, some insights about exploratory research that they provide insight into and an understanding of the marketing phenomena. They are used in instances where subject of study cannot be measured in quantitative manner because we just said they use more qualitative data to give insight and general information about a project. Exploratory research may help to establish all appropriate variables and how they are connected together. Also, exploratory research may be used in cases where you must define the problem more precisely and identify the relevant courses of action or gain additional insights before going on to confirm findings using causal design. Examples of descriptive studies in marketing research can be as follows. For example, market studies describing the size of the market, the buying power, availability of distributors, how big is the market, who is buying brand A or B or C, which brand complete which segments. We have here like sales analysis studies. We have image studies determining the consumer perception. All these are examples of descriptive studies. And finally, a major difference between exploratory and descriptive research is that the descriptive research is characterized by the prior formulation of a specific research question and hypothesis. Thus, the information needed is clearly defined. The causal research. As we said before, that causal research is used to obtain evidence on cause and effect relationship. We use causal relationship for this matter. We want to know the effect of A on B, or what makes B looks different with the causal effect of A. Marketing managers continually make decisions based on assumed causal relationship and based on research conducted in this manner. Marketing managers take lots of decisions based on this research. Type. How can be causal research beneficial? We can use causal research for many areas. First of all, we can understand which variables are the cause and which variables are the effect. That's why we classify these variables into dependent and independent variables. The second area, we can determine the nature of the relationship between the causal variables and the effect to be predicted. We also can use causal relationship to test hypotheses. Like descriptive research, causal research requires a planned and structured design, not like exploratory research. They are different because we don't have hypotheses, but here in causal relationship, we can use this type of research to test hypotheses. Other classification of the type of research is according to the source of data. According to the source of data, we can classify research into primary and secondary research. What is primary research? Primary research, they are designed to generate and collect data for a specific problem. These data are collected firsthand for this type of research. So this data wasn't existing before the conducting of this research. So they are called primary. And by the way, primary research could be both qualitative or quantitative. However, secondary data are used in secondary research. Secondary research means this research have been using data collected before. Also, they can be qualitative or quantitative. However, they should be revised before deciding to use it. In the previous slide, we classified research according to the sources of data, according to the primary research and secondary research. Here we address the types of data sources as primary data sources through, for example, observations, surveys, and questionnaires, interviews. Secondary data sources could be from external or internal records, external like published data, standardized source of marketing data, and the internet. And the internal records are the records kept inside the organization. A quick comparison between the primary and the secondary data according to the purpose. Primary data, as we said before, are collected for the problem and the research on hand. However, secondary data are collected before. The primary data, the collection cost is very high. However, the secondary is very low because it was collected before conducting the research. The collection time may be very long. However, here it's relatively short compared to the primary. We mentioned that we can get secondary data either from internal sources or external sources. Internal sources like the records kept in the organization or the company from many departments like in sales department, accounting department, financial department, or even marketing department. Or we can get it from customer complaints. The external secondary data could be from published material, from the internet, from the computerized database, or some information about the competitors. Type of research according to the type of data. We have two types of data, very famous two types of data. Number one, the qualitative data. Number two, the quantitative data. Here is a quick comparison between quantitative research and the qualitative research. According to the research inquiry, we can find here the three types of investigation: exploratory, descriptive, and explanatory. Also, we can find it here, exploratory, descriptive, and explanation. Both, or any type of research inquiry, they can use both quantitative and the qualitative kind of research. According to the nature of questions and responses, in quantitative research, they ask about precise information: who, what, when, where, how many, superficial and rational responses, measurements, testing and validation. However, in qualitative research, they ask about what's below the surface and the emotional responses. They talk about exploration more and descriptive. In the sampling approach, in qualitative data or qualitative research, definitely using non-probability methods, which is called purposive. However, in the quantitative research, they can use both probability and non-probability methods. The sample size here in quantitative is large and very representative to the population. However, here in qualitative is small and may not be very representative for the population. The data collection, not very flexible, very structured, very rigid. They use interviews, observations, questionnaires, very standardized and structured, more enclosed questions. However, in the qualitative, more dealing with open-ended questions, less structured and less standardized. They are very flexible, like a chit-chat between the respondents and whoever asking the questions. About the data, it is in the form of numbers, percentage, means, all this reflecting the quantitative research. However, in the qualitative, we talk here quality, here quantity. Qualitative in the form of words, pictures, in-depth, text, rich, high validity, low reliability, statistics. The cost of conducting quantitative research is low cost per respondent, but high project cost. Here in the qualitative is high cost per respondent, however, very low project cost. We can also classify research by method of data collection. We have data collection through observation, and this can be used in either quantitative and the qualitative research, either through personal or electronic means. Also, we can use interviews, either also in quantitative or qualitative research. These interviews can be conducted in personal manner through face-to-face, telephone interviews, or even online through Skype or different applications. Or it can be used interviewing through self-completion. Self-completion interviews we can send like in post or online through emails. Based on the mode of collection, of data collection, we classified into either continuous or ad hoc. Continuous is done based on continuous basis or regular intervals. So this kind of research, its purpose to monitor change over time. So we regularly conduct this kind of research every year, every quarter, every 5 years. So it is in two types. either panel of the same people or store, they get rounds, they get turns, or either independent sample of the population, so new entrants every time, not the same kind of people. The main use is to monitor over time and to study trends. However, in the ad hoc, we just make this type of research only when needed. One-off basis, only when needed. Data collected in one point of time, not regular like this, not through intervals or regular intervals. Examples of this type of research is advertisements test, usage and attitude surveys, evaluation of some kinds of services. We can use this ad hoc research to address a particular research problem. And they use similar or identical samples recruited and new for each round of fieldwork. Omnibus and the tracking studies use this approach, and some government surveys use also this approach. According to the research design, the research has to choose between either cross-sectional research, longitudinal, experiment research, or the case study. These are different research design according to different research purposes. Here is a quick comparison between cross-sectional versus longitudinal research. Longitudinal research, sometimes we call it time series. Okay, first of all, the cross-sectional research. Cross-sectional means it's a single cross-sectional design. We collect data from a cross-sectional or population at a point of time. Cross-sectional, for example, cross-sectional study in education could be helpful if you conduct a research to study or to understand how students score in a particular grade in a particular course. Okay, this is one-time cross-sectional. Sometimes we can repeat cross-sectional design more than one wave or more or less the same research. Here, in time series, used to monitor trends or changes of the unit of analysis in related of marketing and financial or social phenomena over time. For example, if you wanted to observe a security price over a specific period of time with data points recorded at regular interval, this is a longitudinal research. They are mainly used in causal research to establish causal the direction between variables. In cross-sectional, independent samples are used over time. The use of independent sample each time distinguish repeated cross-sectional from longitudinal research. However, here in longitudinal research, data are collected from the same sample on more than one occasion. For example, for 5 executive years or 2 successive seasons. Cross-sectional are used in exploratory more, descriptive research, and explanatory research to examine the relationship between variables on cautious. In the experimental research, we use this type of research to get evidence or answer the why questions. For example, we use experimental research to know the isolation effect of one variable on the other. Effect of all other variables are removed or controlled, so we need to know the effect of the isolation of one variable on the other variable. Examine in isolation the effect of one variable, the independent or exploratory, on another variable, which is the dependent variable. Two samples are selected and matched in key criteria. The exposition of one group to the independent is done, and after that, the change in the dependent is recorded for both groups. We have also the case study research. This case study research is in-depth investigation of a case for exploration or describing or even exploratory research purpose. All these research inquiries can use the case study research design or a combination. It is used to get full picture to achieve in-depth understanding and get detailed description. In many cases, some research start with the case study design, then move to more detailed research design. A case might be a household, organization, or individual experiment. It could examine all parts of the case or just some parts of the case. Data collection in this type of case studies, they can use documents or interviewing, and also they are needed to detect complexities and get detailed description. What is the research design? It's about the logic of the research, the framework or the structure of the research so that it delivers evidence needed to answer the research questions. It decides on the nature of the research inquiry itself, whether it is exploratory, descriptive, or causal. It decides on the data collection. The process of research design involves defining the problem and making decisions about the mechanics. The research design process involves two levels. The first level is defining the research problem, thinking about the end use of data, deciding on the sort of evidence you need, the units of analysis, the structure of the research, and even the structure they will deliver the evidence required. The second level is deciding upon the type of data and the method of data collection, whether primary, secondary, or both, quantitative, qualitative, or both. Defining the sampling strategy about the population, about the sampling unit, the approach, and also the sample size. Second level of design issues could be deciding on the method of data collection, whether to be face-to-face, telephone, or in-depth interviews, deciding the data collection methods, defining the concepts, choosing indicators, operationalization of the concepts, and designing the questionnaire or discussion guide. Is research design important? Yes, very important. Why? Because if you want to answer the research question, you have to build a very strong and solid framework. And research design is about building this framework, which a good quality research is built on. Second of all, you want to answer the research problem or the questions clearly and accurately, so you need a proper research design. Also, the research design can affect the validity and reliability of your research. What is the validity and reliability? What is internal and external validity of the research? Internal validity refers to the ability of the research to develop credible evidence to address the research problem. It refers to whether the research measures what is intended to measure. So we measure in our research what we want from the beginning to measure. This is affected by data collection method, the design of the data collection tool. About the external validity, they refer to the extent to which a result could be generalized. So it is related to the sample size and whether the sample size could be generalized or could be very representative to the whole population. If yes, so the external validity of the research is very good. If not, if the sample size is not representative, so the external validity is poor for the research. Now we have come to the end of this chapter. I hope you enjoyed listening to the lecture, and looking forward to seeing you soon in another lecture. Thank you very much, and